Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well today, thank you. And yourself?
That's good. That's good. How's summer been?
Summer has been interesting. It's been a different summer.
Yeah.
Usually our summers are filled with a lot of sports stuff because my son plays competitive sports.
Yeah.
And although he's back into it, it was a little bit different because, there's no games and anything. He plays soccer. There's no games, but there's a lot of practicing. So it's been a different summer. Um, it's been a lot of staying at home summer,
Yes.
but that's okay. You know what? It's been a time to reflect. It's been a time to really just put other things in place, which has been, kind of a good opportunity to
Uh,
leverage.
yeah. Yeah. Same here. I think we've been home a lot, and there's a lot of bonding time, and I think another thing that I feel is coming out of it is we're developing more patience for each other, right? So before it was
Yes,
just easy to not deal with it, go out or do something or whatever. But now because everybody's kind of, I wouldn't say
there.
stuck, but kind of together a lot.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I think everybody's growing more patience to deal with each other, which is really good. Which is really good.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Opportunity to gain some other skills in life.
Yes, yes. So I am gonna say a little bit about you.
Okay.
So Mubina Jaffer is a certified consultant, coach, and facilitates to improve quality of people's lives using science and psychology to help them reach their most elusive personal and professional goals. And so you tell me a little bit more about yourself.
So I've had an interesting life. I came here. I came to Canada when I was 4 years old in 1974, and I was very fortunate because I went through regular schooling, and I say that because I use a wheelchair, and
Mm-hmm.
so when I first came, I was they were automatically going to put me in a school for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
However, fortunately, whoever did the assessment said no, 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 she doesn't need to be in this school. So I did all my schooling here, and I got my degree from University of Toronto in sociology and economics.
Wow.
And yeah, and I did, and then I got into the corporate world, and I have 20 plus years of corporate experience.
Mm-hmm.
And also, then I decided to go into this coaching world. So that's what I do now. For the last 7 years, I've been doing coaching, and it's been the best thing I did for myself, and we'll get more into that later. But I guess for me, it's all about really knowing me, right? Because when I get to know me, and when I know who I am and what makes me tick and what makes me, tick in a not good way, right? Then I can stay in control of me. Because at the end of the day, all I can do is, take responsibility for me and my life, and really have that attitude. And when I say attitude, I'm talking about my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, right? Have that attitude that will get me to be the best version of me I can be on a daily basis. And every day I strive to get better.
Yes.
And that gives me, a really good opportunity to, have a fulfilled creative life.
Okay. So that was a little bit background about you, and then we're gonna probably get a little bit deeper into your professional side. But you use a wheelchair, so tell me a little bit more about that.
So that's been an interesting journey as well. I was born absolutely fine, and I even walked. I was 18 months old. I was born in Tanzania in Dar es Salaam, and I went when I was 18 months old to a neighboring country, to Zaire, Republic of Congo, and there was a cholera outbreak happening over there. So everybody was given cholera vaccines, myself included, and I ended up having high fevers. And at that age, high fevers, I ended up getting seizures and convulsions. And then my stomach bloated. So then this was in 1971, right? So they did an exploratory surgery in a third world country, to see what's happening with my stomach. It kind of settled. And then a couple of days later, same thing happened again. The stomach started bloating. So then they said, let's do this again. they couldn't find anything. They ended up taking out my appendix because we're in here. She doesn't need it. Let's take it out. You know. So after about a week from start to finish, things settled, and then I couldn't walk. My parents at the time, I mean, I can only imagine what they went through. Uh, Anyhow, so they took me to, I believe, England and to Pakistan for treatment, but nothing was, you know, like they couldn't do anything. And then in 1974, my dad had an opportunity to either go to Dubai or Canada. And Alhamdulillah, and I'm so grateful he chose Canada. I think, I mean, you know, nothing against Dubai, it's a great place too. However, I feel like I got lots of different opportunities coming to Canada. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, my schooling, I was able to go through, you know, regular schooling. And, you know, in 1980, it was the year of the disabled. And so the school that I was in, I was in grade 5 at the time, we went to Sunny View Public School. Yeah, it's a school for people with disabilities. That's the school they wanted to send me to originally. Anyhow, we went there, our class went there to play wheelchair basketball. And that's when I first got exposed to sports, you know, playing sports for people with disabilities. I mean, I'm a huge sports fan, and I've been watching hockey since I was like 6, 7 years old. Anyhow, so this you know, experience playing wheelchair basketball, and I got into sports, and that was probably a big turning point in my life because it taught me a lot about what I'm still able to do, even though I utilize a wheelchair. And so I started playing, I joined them going forward, and I started playing wheelchair basketball. I then got into racing. So I was professionally racing, you know, different like 100 meters, 200 meters, 1500 meters, what have you. And I was also playing basketball, but I was also doing tennis. I was doing, there was this obstacle course that was a big race back then. And I remember one year, I think it was in 1986 or 87, I can't remember, but Prince Andrew and his wife at the time, Sarah Ferguson, they had come and they were actually starting a race, and they had asked me to be the person that they would start the race. So that was a nice experience, right? To actually meet him and get him to start the race. So, you know, and I was so close to going to the 1988 Olympics.
Wow.
Fortunately, well, and now in retrospect, given what I do, I realize what happened. So in 87, I had injured my wrist, and I kept having to scratch out of races because of my wrist injury. And I ended up not going to the Olympics because, you know, the injury just took over, right? But what happened is it was my mind. There was the whole, I mean, yeah, there was an actual physical injury, okay? However, at that time, I didn't know how my mind worked. I wasn't able to recognize what was happening. And it was actually fear of success that was taking over and controlling me. And then, you know, the injury became just a physical manifestation of what was going on in my mind. And so, you know, I ended up not going to the Olympics, but that's okay. You know what? It is what it is. It was, you know, it was a growth opportunity. And then I got into university and then working. So I kind of gave up sports from me actually participating. You know, but then my son came into the picture, and now we're back into the sports world.
Yes, and I see you everywhere, which is amazing, which is like, you know, remarkable, because you don't miss a beat. Like, you're there everywhere, like whether it's a hockey practice or a tournament or a hockey game or whatever. And that's what inspires me about you, is that you just keep going, right?
Yeah, I'm very, honestly, I feel like I'm very lucky. Even though I utilize a wheelchair, you know, I've really been able to accomplish a lot of the things in my life that I've wanted to. I haven't let the being in a chair stop me from things. I've always had that, you know, attitude that, you know what, you just go and do what you need to do, right? Yeah, you gotta do things in a different way, you know. So for example, at home, you know, when it comes to cooking, you know, I have a chair that's a little higher with wheels. You know, I get on it to be able to, you know, get to a level where I can see the cooking and stuff like that. You know, my car, I drive a car. My car has hand controls, you know, in it. I pull my wheelchair in. I have a, regular 4-door sedan. I pull my wheelchair in the passenger seat. I get into the driver's seat. I use my hands. So, I've really done whatever I need to. And, alhamdulillah, here in Canada, well, I think most first world countries now have the different technology in place to be able to, offset any restrictions, right, that could happen due to any kind of a disability. So I've been very lucky like that. And so, I just do it. Whatever needs to get done, I just do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, from the emotional side, like, I mean, I know the systems are in place and the support system is there, whether it's by family or the government or the community and everything, like, all that is there. But have you ever come across anything that has hit you emotionally? Like, sometimes I feel like all the systems can be in place, but then there could be that one thing that might bring you down. And I'm asking you not for you to relive that, but for us to learn and for us to actually know how it made you feel. It could have been a small gesture or a small something somebody must have done, and maybe maybe consciously or subconsciously. But what I want to know is, how did it make you feel in the moment?
So one of the biggest struggles I've had in my life was getting married. Okay. So in general, right, outer appearances are a very big thing when people get married. And in our community, in our culture, it's even stronger. Okay, so
Yeah.
getting married was tough because I was in my 20s, and a lot of my friends were getting married. My family, members were getting married, and that's something I wanted because everybody wants that. Everybody wants to feel loved, and I wanted to have kids as well. So getting married was a big struggle for me, and it became a center point in my life, which kind of, in retrospect now, given the work I do, I realized what had happened. I didn't really know me. I hadn't looked within, and I was kind of looking for outer, you know, um, outer circumstances to fulfill me. And
Mm-hmm.
now I realize that it's all about me, and everything
Mm-hmm.
is within. But
Mm-hmm.
anyhow, so it was a struggle, and I finally did meet my ex-husband now, who we got married, and in after reflecting, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but it's okay because it was an experience that you know I got some things out of it,
So,
and
if I can just like kind of ask you, how did that transpire?
the marriage.
Yes.
So we came across each other. I can't even remember how. This was like in the in the early 2000s. But we met each other, and we kind of just spent time getting to know each other. And we were both there was a gap in age, and we were both in our lives where we kind of just wanted to move forward. And so we did end up getting married. But to tell you the truth, the marriage wasn't a good marriage. It was very toxic right from the get-go. And in retrospect, it's because I was just trying to look outside for internal fulfillment. And anyhow, so we stayed married. We were married for about 10 years. And alhamdulillah, I was able to do my Hajj, right? Because having a support of a husband, and being, using a wheelchair, and then my younger brother had already gone for Hajj. They all encouraged me, let's just go. It was actually my younger brother, so I'm grateful for that. So I got to do my Hajj out of it, and I also got a child out of it. And so it was an experience that has made me who I am today. Because it actually took me into the path of changing me. And so I'm very grateful for that whole experience. It was tough. That 10 years was really tough. I will say that. And even the years before I did get married, they were tough years because there were days that I was like really down because I was like, everyone's getting married, right? And I'm not. So and those were the days that I was really feeling heavy around being in a wheelchair. you know, heavy in the sense of having resentment towards the world, resentment, you know, towards God at some point as well, right? Like,
Okay.
why did this have to happen to me, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and now in retrospect, I realize it's I was not in a place of being grateful, right? I was in a place of being a victim. I was blaming anything and everything or anyone around my situation. And I've since learned, no, that's not the way to live.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
yeah, there
would
were
you
some tough times.
so would you say that along with the physical side of your test, or your limitation, did you feel like your emotional or mental side was also adding to the mix a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I would say that happened a lot in my 20s, 30s, for sure. Even in my early 40s.
Okay.
Um, and that's what I'm very grateful, all of those experiences, you know, and I would say probably more my marriage ending, because that was a life altering decision. And my son at the time was just a little over 4. And
Okay.
so for me, it was all of that that really motivated me to get into this personal development side. And, you know, given my degrees in sociology and even in the corporate world, I was always in roles where I was, you know, getting the opportunity to advise people. And I love working with people. I just naturally went into
Mhm,
this coaching world, which has
mhm,
been amazing.
mhm. So then that happened, and then obviously now you readjusted your life from being married and having a son to being a single mom and raising a child,
Yes, which has
and
been
having have and with whatever life has given you else with that. So what 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 helped you draw strength at that time?
my son at the time was my motivator. He was. And I, you know, one of the things that I've always wanted was to be a mom. So motherhood has taught me so much. Like, I can't even tell you, but patience is one of the biggest things it's taught me. And I'm sure other moms out there can, you know, other parents out there can relate. But yeah, so my son was my motivator. You know, I recognized that it was just a toxic environment, and I didn't want to bring up my son in a toxic environment. And so when I, you know, when we made the decision to end it, I wanted to, you know, I knew there was a lot of emotional chaos in me, you know, not just from my marriage, but from even previous years, right? Just the whole thing of, you know, life and, you know, because I was just mad at life and I, you know, resentful. So there was a lot of emotional chaos. I was at a very low vibration, and I knew something had to change. I didn't want to continue living this way, because now I had this little boy that I was responsible for bringing up. And I knew that the only way I can be a good mom is to become a better version of me, the best version of me. And so I started doing a lot of, you know, reading, you know, different self-help books. And I was like, wait a minute, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. And it took like a good 2-3 years of a lot of struggle emotionally, mentally, right? A lot of change inside. Um, and that's what really got me into this. And I came across a hadith by Imam Ali, um, which I studied a lot. And that hadith was really something that was like, wait a minute, if one of, you know, a prominent uh, uh, figure in the religion that I so am attached to and I believe in is saying this, there's got to be something in this. And this is something that was, you know, said, you know, how many thousands of years ago, right? Anyhow, so the hadith is, you know, Imam Ali said, your sickness is within you and your cure is within, right? And that's just a part of the hadith. It's a huge
Yeah.
hadith.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and that hadith just kept, I was like, there's got to be something, there's got to be something. And so I started studying that more. And then I started studying different thought writers, right? Like Louise Hay, Florence Shin, Neville Goddard, you know, Wayne Dyer. There's so many out there, right? And then I came across Bob Proctor, and he really put it all together for me. And, you know, it just changed me because I wanted to be the best version of me, right?
Mm.
And that's when I knew, because originally my son was the center of my universe. But as I went through this journey, I started to recognize, he's an important part of my life. And he'll always be an important part of my life. But the center of my universe is me and only me.
Yes.
Because I can only control me. I cannot even control my son. And I don't want to control my son because
Yeah.
he's his own person, right?
Yeah.
I can guide him. I can support him. I can, teach him. But at the end of the day, I'm the center of my universe because I'm always going to be with me. People will come and go in my life, right? But me, I will always be with me. And so I've learned a lot over the years, and I've learned to really draw on my own strengths. And, one of the things I would say to everybody out there is really get to know you,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because that will do wonders for your life. And so my son was my motivator.
Uh-huh. So would you say that hadith, it was your soul searching inspiration, that you wanted, you just read it and you knew you had to harp on it and get to the bottom of it. So that kind of helped you find you.
Yes, I would say that was the instigator, right? And my son, because I really wanted to. I knew that the chaos that was in me, the emotional chaos, from the years of being married and even prior to marriage, and then the whole separation and divorce. It's a life altering experience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to be able to be the best mom to him, right? And at the end of the right? I have responsibility. And so all of that was my motivation, the hadith, my son. And I was tired of feeling that way. I just wanted to feel better. And all of that was my motivation. And, I now know, right? It's all about my thoughts. It literally starts with your thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's how I feel too. I think I myself struggled trying to change the environment around me, to think that if things would be around me would be, like uh, in the best, if I were placed into a best situation and scenario, I would be happy. And I realized, no, it's all inside. So I could be standing anywhere, but if I have all the pieces inside me are in the right places, I'm going to be very content no matter what, right? So I understand, and I say that too, and sometimes I kind of question myself when I say that um, I have finally started to love me, or I want to know me, or I love spending time with me. And I know it sounds really odd when I say that. And like, for example, when the kids were younger, for me, it was always about a night out, or I wanted to go out with my friends and I want to be out, right? And now it's like, there are times when Ali will say, why don't you go out or do something? And I say, well, you know what? I want to just be home and I want to be with me. And I'm fine. I love going out with my friends and I love hanging out and I love, hanging out with them and dining and all that. I love doing that. But there are times when I just want to be with me. Um, and that gives me a lot of peace because I'm with my thoughts. I'm able to, kind of uh, filter myself internally better when I'm alone.
Yep, yep. And I relish the times that I can spend on my own. I like to do check-in, like a self check-in throughout the day. When I wake up, I'll ask myself, okay, Mubina, what kind of an attitude are you going to have today, right? And I always prepare the night before what I'm going to be doing, what my actions are going to be for the next day. And I do a check-in throughout the day. How am I feeling right now? If I'm feeling good, well, I keep doing what I'm doing. If I'm not feeling so good, because that's part of life, then I'll go back and I'll see, okay, what have I been thinking about? Because it's whatever I've been thinking about that's creating my feelings, right? And then I'll fix that. So the time with myself is something I totally value, and it's just amazing
Okay.
how much control we have.
Okay. So let's talk about your son. How old is he now?
So my son, he's gonna be 12 in October. He's been the best thing that's happened to me. Honestly, he's just been amazing. He's like he's taught me so much, right? He's taught me, to look within, to be a good version of me. He's taught me patience. He's teaching me all the time. A lot of the stuff that I do as part of my coaching with my clients, that I practice myself, he's learned it. And he's my, he'll check in with me, and he'll be like, well, mommy, can't say it that way. You got to say it this way. So it's good, right? He loves sports, and that
We
was
all
just
know that.
something innate in him. And yeah, so he plays competitive hockey and competitive soccer. He's a goalie in soccer, and he's a defenseman in hockey. And then he plays ball hockey, where he's usually a forward. So he gets to play all the positions, and it's really good because I love sports, right? And it's kind of nice. It's something we share, and we get to, I really enjoy watching him play. And then we also go and watch sports like, basketball, hockey, etc. So that's a passion we both have. And, he keeps me on my toes. We're definitely, on the go a lot. And we, we're either in a rink or a field, but we both enjoy it, so yeah, so he's, one of the things that I have really been mindful about is, while I'm teaching him, and all of this stuff that I've learned, and he's gonna have it much better, because I didn't get around to this stuff until I was in my 40s, right? He's getting it now. And so for me, it's really good, because he can learn it now, and I can just imagine his life is going to be amazing, because he has this information now. And that's one of the things I really try to get across to people is, just start to know you now. And so, he utilizes a lot of this stuff in his schooling, in his sports, and it's good, because now as he's getting older, he's getting it more, and he's starting to practice, the stuff. But he's been the best thing for me.
I know. It's amazing how, obviously our grandparents and everybody, they all have their wisdom, and they've shared that with us. And I feel like, like for me, at least, I feel like who I am today is because of their nurturing, right? Like when we were little. But I find like the kind of information, the support system that we're giving our kids today is not what we had when we were younger. And so when I feel like I am on the right path, I'm not obviously not there. It's going to be a long time until and we will never get there, right? Because we're always striving to be better and better each day. And I feel like for them, if they're started at this age, just to have a different perspective on life, right? Even if it's the simplest thing. I always used to hear, oh, the glass half full or glass half empty, but I never understood the real meaning, and, it didn't penetrate inside of me, the concept of it. They were just words, right? And now the kids have that full understanding, right? So
and
that's
it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And one of the things that I'm really mindful about is, I've done this for quite a few years now, is getting him to make his own decisions. However, I'm working on getting him to really understand decision making, and then, like I'll help him see the potential consequences of the decisions. But I want him to start experiencing it now, because once he's out there in the real world, after he's finished his education, it will benefit him, because that's one of the things that I didn't really get. And so I'm really, I reflect back on things that, I wish I knew, and I'm trying to instill that in him now, right? And even some of the values around honesty.
Yeah. So would you say you're a protector as a parent, or a person who would like to teach your child and let them learn from their decisions or even their mistakes at times?
Yeah. So I like to let him learn, because I I believe, especially with what I do, is there are no failures. Everything in life is an event or an experience to learn from, right? That's something I tell my clients all the time. And so for me, for my son, it's important for him to learn, right? That's how he's going to learn and grow. So I'll give you an example. Like in school, I know in the past when he was in younger grades, the teacher would give him, you know, a second chance on a test, right? Like a math test. He loves math and he's very good at it. And so, but he does things very quickly, and it's probably from, you know, his sports background. And the teacher would give him a second chance, you know, to redo that question to give him a better mark. And I told this teacher, stop doing this to him, yeah, because he needs to learn, right? And the only way you can learn is when you experience things, right? You experience it, you know, you recognize what's happened, and then you learn and grow from it. And that's why for me, you know, I used to be that parent that would always try to protect him, but now I don't. I really work on letting him have his experiences, you know, letting him, you know, learn by his actions, right?
Yeah.
And then make the decision himself what he wants to do.
So in our house too, I think Ali and I were quite opposite in parenting. He's the protector. Oh my God.
Okay.
He is. And so he's and I understand where he's coming from. Like he is the dad who, if the child brings a test and gets a 95, he'll say, yeah, this is good, but what happened to the other 5%? Right?
Yes.
and which is funny. But I mean, his the intention behind that is, yeah, this is really good, but you have to know what happened to the 5%. So don't get complacent with the 95, which is really good, but know, okay, where was the 5%? So there's a little bit of accountability. And I, on the other hand, am like, if they come to me with even with an 85 or an 80, I'll be like, oh, good job. So do you think you gave it your best? And did you really study like you were supposed to? And you were prepared, and you know, and if they say yes, I'm like, okay, good job. And so Ali just looks at me and he's like, oh my God. So we kind of have that. And I guess we somehow, I guess, balance each other out a little bit, but definitely I'm the kind of, my parenting style is, okay, go on. And I'm watching, I'm observing. If you fall, I'll come help you. If you make a mistake, and then that's been one of my biggest things is for my kids is it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but come and tell me.
Yes.
I want you. I want to hear it from you.
Yes.
And
that's one thing I work with him on.
Yeah. And so he would, then the kids would be like, okay, so no consequence, right? Like they thought, oh, if we go and tell mom this is what we did, there's no consequences for that, right? I'm like, no. There still are consequences. But if I find out from outside, which I will, and I used to mess with them, I'd be like, you have no idea. I will find out. And somehow I would find out. Right? And it'd be like silly things. And then it was, for me, but I was trying to teach them that if you make a mistake, own it, understand where you made the mistake, and find a way to do it better next time. And for me, that ownership of making a mistake is very important, because then on the other hand, you have, like, there are some people who will make a mistake, they know it, but they will never own it. And I feel like if you don't say it, yeah, I did this wrong, or I could have done this better, I think it makes you realize something right inside of you. So for me, it was like, you do something wrong, you come tell me, and there will be consequences, but not as severe. But if I find out on my own, then the consequences will go a little bit higher. So alhamdulillah, I think it works. But when they become teenagers, you think they tell you everything. They don't.
but this is the thing, right? And this is why I've been working with him now to instill this in him, right? And one of the things that I find is it gets them out of victim mode. Okay, I find that most people fall into victim mode very easily, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's again coming back to not owning what your part in, because we're always co-creating, right? So it's important to recognize, you know, that you're, you know, co-creating, and you got to own up to your part in
Absolutely.
anything, right? And so that's one thing I'm really working with my son is, and at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own life, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
no different for a
yeah. And another thing that I don't know, I tell my kids, even if they were in a situation where they were not exactly wrong, right? But something happened and somebody did something to them. I listen, but I always ask them, so what did you do? What part did you play? So
yeah,
they can always go back and say, okay, yeah, well, this happened, and then yeah, I did say this or I did do this. So I always tell them, what part did you play? What did you do? Right? So they can, there's
yeah,
always reflection, right? There's ways of reflecting. So
yes,
yeah,
yep,
we're all doing our very best as parents to do what we do, and to teach them, to raise them.
always.
And so I think we should, like, I'd like to know a little bit more about your professional side. So, what did you study in university, and what are you doing now, and how is that impacting your life today?
So the life altering moment of my marriage, prompted me to get into this work. So I did, university. I went into U of T thinking I'm going to do BCom, right? But I truly hated accounting and I hated calculus. In fact, calculus, I hated it so much I dropped out. So I was like, okay, BCom's out of the picture. And so I think it was in second year that I recognized, okay, I want to do sociology. And so I got my degree in like an arts degree, specialist in sociology, and a minor in economics. And then I kind of just fell into a position at Bank of Montreal. So I worked there for a few years, and then I got into consulting. And I worked at IBM, I worked at Ernst & Young, I worked at Capgemini, and then I ended up at Accenture. And I worked for a few years. And it was a tough decision to make a decision to leave, the corporate world. But I knew I wasn't getting fulfilled. I knew there was just something more I wanted, and and that's when I decided I'm out of here, right? And I was actually at the time when I was going through all of this, I had a coach, and that coach really helped me see things clearly, and so I made the decision to leave and start the coaching. And it's been great because it's helped me with my own growth, right? But I really enjoy um, you know seeing the aha moments in my clients. When my clients truly get it, that everything they need is within, everything. And it's a matter of just looking within, it's a matter of getting to know themselves, and it's a matter of, putting some things in practice, right? We're all conditioned based on our upbringing, right? And Islam says, right, the first 7 years of our life is like everything's being absorbed, and that's because our subconscious mind is completely open, wide open, and whatever we're hearing, it's just going in. And our subconscious mind is 95% of our being, and and so when I explain this to my clients, they really get it, and they start to say, okay, now what? And that's when they start to need to understand that we've got paradigms and we've got habits, right? Paradigms are a multitude of habits, and so habits, and I say this to my son all the time, right? Be careful what you're doing because you're creating a habit, right? um, and so for me, my professional career of working with people, getting them to understand themselves, getting them to understand the habits that they have developed over the years, right? And most of them without even realizing, right? But it's about recognizing those habits and understanding, are these habits really serving me?
Mm-hmm,
Is my
mm-hmm,
paradigm serving me? Because it's the
mm-hmm.
paradigm that controls 95% of your being. It's your autopilot, right? And so I love to work with people and just serve them and help them understand what's happening in their life. And are they going, we're all creative beings, right? We're spiritual beings, right? With an intellect in a physical body. And so it's about bringing out that creativeness.
Yep.
And it's about, the creativity is there. It's about bringing it out. It's about, aligning it with your deep desire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, what I do. And I've done it for myself. I have a professional goal, I have a personal goal, and I'm working towards those. And it's just changed my life completely. And when I can help people do that for themselves, the aha moments happen, and it just, I'm like, yes, you know what? I made a
Yeah.
difference for somebody.
Yeah. And a lot of times I feel like when you're having those conversations with people, you're just reminding yourself as well. You're taking that opportunity to remind yourself. And I think there's a little bit of self-learning that ends up happening as well. So it's not you just trying to coach them, but I think subconsciously when you're saying those things to other people, you're actually reminding yourself as well. Right. And so,
Yes, absolutely.
I think that drawing constantly on that positive, on those positive words or the positive vibes, the energy, I think what ends up happening is it consistently, then you're improving yourself, right? And then
Yes,
and then
yes.
and or when you're talking to people, you realize what you have. So it probably, for me at least, it would make me more grateful for what I have, right?
My son has been a great teacher in my life and continues to be, but my clients are great teachers too. They teach me a lot, when I hear about their experiences and I, help them see different perspectives, because at the end of the day, right, our perception is our reality.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so my client's perception is their reality. And a lot of the times they want to shift that perception, right, so that they can change the reality. And so they teach me a lot from
Mm-hmm.
when they share their experiences.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? Because I love doing this because I'm growing at the same time.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll definitely link your business and your consultancy when I air our episode, so people can definitely reach out to you, um, and they can benefit from what you have to offer.
Yeah.
So just to for people to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level, um, what what would you like to find in your best friend, or who is your best friend?
Who is my best friend? To be honest, it's myself. I am my best friend. And one of the things that I have learned over the last few years is I have become more self-reliant, okay? And I literally look within. I was always seeking external approval, external companionship, external this, but now I am my best friend. And honestly, God is also my best friend. And I have conversations with God all the time. Um, and I know, right, from a religious perspective, He is my provider. And, for me, God, universe, it's all the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I am my best friend. And
Good.
yeah.
Your favorite quote? If something comes to your mind.
I have a lot. Have a lot. So, a couple from Bob Proctor, who's my mentor. One is change is inevitable. Personal growth is a choice, right? And that, like we're living in a world of constant change, right? So embrace it. That's what I would say. Embrace the change and leverage it to really grow. But one of the other things that Bob has said to me is, you are the only problem you will ever have, and you are the only solution you will ever have, right? And
Right.
that quote totally aligns with Imam Ali's hadith.
Yeah.
And
So the one
so,
that you were talking about
it
before,
just, I
right?
realized that, it's all about my perception.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the
Imam
one
Ali's
where,
hadith, yes, yes.
um, okay.
Your sickness is within you and your cure is within. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if
Yeah.
there was one person you would want to have dinner with, who would that be?
Who would that be? You know, there's a lot of writers that I really, really like. Louise Hay, Florence Shin, Neville Goddard, right? Bob Proctor, I've already met and had dinner. I would probably say either Neville Goddard or Florence Shin. One of those, and I mean, they're long gone now, but I would love to have dinner with one of them
Just
because I
sit with them
think
and talk.
their mindset is, yeah, because they've guarded their mind. They've learned how to really, really, accept thoughts that serve them. And that's, to me, a goal that I have, right? Just to guard my mind, to really stay so streamlined so that everything that comes in me and goes into my subconscious mind is serving me.
So are you methodical or are you impulsive?
I would say probably a bit of both. You know, I work at living in the present moment because really that's all we have is right now, right? Past is gone, can't be changed. The future is not here yet, so all we have is now. I do plan, obviously. You know, everything gets into my calendar, and you know, so I do plan, but I do, you know, take opportunities that come in front of me. But I would,
Okay.
my focus is to live in the present moment.
I think having the right balance between being impulsive and being methodical is like it's that sweet place, right? So you can draw from both of
Yes.
them for sure. What is the
Yes.
one thing on your bucket list?
One thing on my bucket list. Um, you know, I would at some point like to travel the world. You know, you know, I haven't traveled a lot. I've been, alhamdulillah, to all the Middle Eastern places, all of the, you know, ziyarats. But I would like to see and explore other parts of the world. So I would say travel.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. So inshallah, maybe in the future you just have to manifest it and when it's the
Yes,
right time. So
yes, I
thank
know
you
it's
so
gonna
much,
happen.
Mubina. Thank you so much for taking time out and sharing with me and with everybody else that would is going to watch and hear this interview about what made you today. And I think that you are a remarkable person.
Thank you.
You have I think persevered in during everything that life has thrown at you, and you never stop, right? You keep going, and I
Yeah.
think that is and then your attitude too. I find like, you know, there are a lot of people who would have a similar life to yourself, but it's how they are internally and how they're thinking and feeling and how their thoughts work kind of shape their life and their experiences, and you chose to change that, which is amazing. And I think I can say that for sure that you inspire a lot of people around you, a
Thank
lot,
you.
and you give a lot of people hope. So thank you for that, and thank you so much. And we're going to do this again. We're going to do this again.
Thank you for the opportunity. You know, to me, you know, it's about really, um, our greatest power is the ability to, right? The choice. And, you know, I like to choose, you know, the side of, you know, being able to be creative and, you know, make life the most, because adversity exists for everybody, and it's about rising above the adversity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.